There is a gate almost nobody walks through. It is standing wide open. It leads to life. And the crowd walks right past it. Not because it is hidden, because it is narrow. There is a second gate beside it, big, wide, easy to find, and that is the one the crowd pours through. Here is what should stop you cold. Jesus says the wide gate, the popular one, the one everybody is walking through, leads to destruction, and the narrow one, the one hardly anyone finds, leads to life. So the size of the crowd tells you nothing about which way is right. Today, Jesus stands at the fork in the road, and he does not just point, he pleads. Stay with me. June 25th, daily nourishment to become Christ-like. Teacher Peter Ministries presents daily readings from the life of Christ. The gate the crowd walks past. Today, Jesus takes you to a fork in the road that every single person reaches, and he tells you the truth about the only gate that leads home. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter through it. For the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and there are few who find it. Matthew 7:13-14. Two gates, two ways. Before Jesus ends the greatest sermon ever preached, he brings you to a gate. Watch where he is standing, because everything he has taught has been walking you straight to this door. Look at where Jesus is standing. He has been preaching the greatest sermon ever given. He has talked about your heart, your money, your worry, your enemies. And now at the very end, he brings all of it down to one thing, a gate, a choice. Because every road in that whole sermon has been leading you to this exact spot, the fork in the road. Here is the part people miss. This is not a fork for other people. Everybody comes to it. The rich and the poor, the religious and the wrecked, you. Sooner or later, every single person walks up to these two gates and has to pick one. You cannot stand in the middle forever. Not choosing is choosing. So Jesus does not let you drift past it. He stops you right here and says, decide. Now look at the first word out of his mouth. Enter. Sit on that word for a second. Enter is not a suggestion. It is not someday think about maybe considering the gate. In the language Jesus spoke, that word is a command. It is the kind of word a father uses when the storm is coming, and he stands at the door and says, get inside now, not later. One definite move. Jesus is not describing two gates like a tour guide pointing at scenery. He is pleading with you. He is standing at the narrow gate, holding it open and saying, come through this one. And a plea like that always expects an answer. So look at the first gate. Jesus says it is wide and the road past it is broad. Picture the widest gate you have ever seen. No squeezing, no cost, no turning sideways. You can carry anything you want straight through. Your pride, your grudges, your idols, your own way. Nothing has to be left at the door. And the road on the other side is broad. Room to wander, room to drift. Nobody tells you no. That is why the crowd is there. Jesus says many enter through it. Of course they do. It is the easy one. It fits what people already want. But watch where the broad road goes. Jesus says it leads to destruction. The easy gate, the popular road, the one that asks nothing of you, it ends in ruin. Here is the trap you have to see. The crowd is not proof you are safe. Sometimes the crowd is just proof that a road is easy to walk. And easy is not the same as right. Now the other gate. Jesus says it is small and the way past it is narrow. A small gate means you cannot carry everything through. You come as you are, but you cannot bring your old self as your king. The pride does not fit. The my way first does not fit. You go through with empty hands and a bowed head. And why is it so narrow? All through this sermon, Jesus has been raising the standard. He said it is not enough to not murder. Do not even hate. Not enough to not commit adultery. Guard your eyes. The gate is narrow because God is not grading on the curve of what people around you do. The wide way is human tradition, the outside stuff, looking right. The narrow way is God's own righteousness, all the way down. That is a gate you cannot squeeze through by being a little better than your neighbor. And Jesus says something that should wake you up. Few find it. Not few walk it. Few even find it. It is not crowded. You will not be swept through it by the mob. You have to look for it on purpose while everyone around you is streaming the other way. Now here is the thing that turns this whole teaching into good news. What is the narrow gate? Later, this same Jesus will stand in front of his friends and say it plainly. I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. The gate is not a rule book. The gate is not a religion. The gate is a person. It is narrow because it is one door, and that door is Jesus himself. Think about a rescue at sea. When the one boat pulls up beside a drowning man, nobody complains that the boat is too narrow, that there is only one. The one boat is the whole hope. That is the narrow gate. It is narrow the way a lifeline is narrow. One rope, one rescuer, one way home. And that is why the gospel is narrow. Not because God is stingy with the door, because there is only one door, and he flung it wide open and stood in the gap himself, so that anyone who comes through him walks straight into life. So when Jesus pleads, enter the narrow gate, he is not pointing you to a hard religion. He is pointing you to himself. Come through me, he says. I am the way home. Reflection. The one way you never apologize for. Once you have seen the gate, you have to answer one honest question, and it is about the way you hand this good news to the people you love. So let me ask you the honest question. When you tell someone about Jesus, do you apologize for the gate? Be honest. There is a way of sharing the gospel that keeps shrinking it, softening it, widening it, so it will not offend. Well, Jesus is one way for me. There are probably lots of paths up the mountain. You do you. It sounds kind. It sounds humble. But listen to what it actually does. It takes the one lifeline and cuts it into 100 pretend ropes that do not reach the water. Here is the truth. You do not have to be embarrassed about. If it were not for this narrow way, there would be no way at all. Think about a bridge over a deep canyon. There is exactly one bridge that reaches the other side. Now imagine a guide who feels bad that there is only one. So to be nice, he starts pointing people toward the edges where there is no bridge, just a long drop. That is not kindness. That is the cruelest thing he could do. The most loving thing is to grab people by the arm and say, this way, the real bridge, the one that holds. And there is salvation in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven that has been given among men by which we must be saved. No other name. That is not narrow-mindedness. That is a rescue. So do not present Jesus with an apology in your voice, like you are asking permission for the truth. Invite people to the real gate, the only gate, and then relax, because it was never your job to widen it or to force it. The Spirit of God draws people, and he only ever draws them to the truth. Your job is to tell them the truth and love them all the way to the door. Application. You cannot point people to a gate you have not walked through yourself. So here are 3 honest moves, starting with you. So what do you do with this? 3 honest moves. 1, enter it yourself first. Before you preach one word to anyone, answer the question for you. Have you gone through the gate? Not. Do you like Jesus? Not did you grow up around church? Have you actually come through him, empty-handed, bowed-headed, trusting him and not your own record? You cannot hand someone a door you have never opened. So make the definite move Jesus is asking for. Enter. Today, if you never have. 2, give them the real gospel, not a roomier one. When you talk to your kid, your coworker, your friend, watch how much you shave off to make it comfortable. Do not trade the narrow gate for a message that lets everybody keep their own king. That message cannot save because it is not the one God gave. The kindest thing you own is the true gospel. Whole and unashamed, hand them that. 3, then let go and trust the one who draws. Here is the pressure valve. It is not on you to make anybody believe. You are not the gate. You are the friend pointing at it. So you tell the truth plainly and warmly, and then you take your hands off. The Spirit of God does the drawing, and he only draws people to what is true. So pray for that one person by name. Point them to the real gate, and then rest, knowing the same God who opened the door is the one who walks people through it. Pray, come to the gate honestly. He is holding it open. Father, I have spent a lot of my life drifting with the crowd, walking whatever road was easy and calling it fine. I did not even look for the narrow gate. I just went where everybody else was going. Thank you that you did not leave me on that road. Thank you that the gate is a person, and that person is Jesus, and that he stood in the gap for me so I could come home. Today, I want to come through the real gate, not my own good record, not my church attendance, just Jesus. I come with empty hands. And Father, for the people I love who are still streaming the other way, give me courage. Keep me from softening the truth to make it easier to say. Let me love them enough to point them to the only door that holds. I cannot draw a single heart, but you can. So I tell the truth, and I trust you with the rest. In Jesus' name, amen. Meditate. One gate, one way. Walk it today. There is one gate, and it is Jesus. I will not go looking for a wider way. Today I enter the narrow gate and walk the narrow way, and I point the people I love to the only door that leads to life. Carry this with you today. Every time the crowd around you leans one way, and it would be so easy to lean with them, remember the two gates. Easy is not the same as right. Wide is not the same as safe. The narrow way is the living way because the narrow gate is a living person. So walk it on purpose. When you feel the pull to widen the truth just to keep the peace, remember the bridge that actually holds and love people enough to point them to it. Let these words renew your mind all day. Takeaway: the way to life is narrow because there is only one way, and his name is Jesus. There are two gates. One is wide and easy and crowded, and it ends in ruin. One is small and narrow and quiet, and it opens onto life. The narrow gate is not a hard religion. It is a person with his arms open. So stop looking for a wider way. There is not one. Come through Jesus and bring everyone you can with you. Subscribe before you go, because tomorrow Jesus does not soften a thing. Right after the two gates, he turns and warns you about the voices that will try to talk you off the narrow way. The false teachers, the ones who point you back toward the wide, easy gate with a smile on their face. In part 2, Jesus shows you how to spot them. You do not want to miss it. So do two things right now. Subscribe so part 2 is waiting for you tomorrow, and share this with one person who is walking the wide road with the crowd, the one you keep praying for. Point them to the gate. The answer was never a wider way. The answer is Jesus.